Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We all know a good mentor can open doors and ease the creative path in myriad ways, but should that come for free? Does romantic attraction play a role? Yes? No? Too much? In this segment, Pat and James hash it out.
Like I do some coaching and stuff. I guess it's not that I don't have any reason. It's just that, the amount of time it takes for me it doesn't take me any time to offer it. And the money's pretty good, but I guess I'm not fully committed to the fact that that meeting with me is going to really help move somebody forward. Like I can see it in certain things. Like one of my students asked if she could meet with me so I could look at her systems and say, have you thought about this? What's your objective over there? And then we could get her a good system just to kind of like you say, go for 2 months on and tweak it, see how it works out. But other than that, I feel that coaching doesn't super help writers unless they have a very specific issue that they're grappling with. And it helps if I know about the manuscript, although it can be surprisingly helpful even if I don't. But like for anybody, any coach, any writing coach. But otherwise, I almost feel like books are so big that, you can dip in and out of having a coach. Maybe I'm just trying to figure this out myself, but I know people who have a coach for an entire book and they're spending tens of thousands of dollars. They're writing the book themselves. They just have accountability and somebody reading their stuff. And I'm like, how helpful is that?
Yeah. So in a perfect world, so one of the things that I tried to do and it failed miserably. Nobody was interested. Was selling a subscription to me, right? As a writing coach.
That's so cool. What a great idea.
So it would be, you could purchase a weekly, a monthly, a few months. And so basically you would be, have access to me during that time. Like
Awesome.
I set boundaries so that, it wasn't like all day, every day kind of thing.
Yeah, like a retainer.
But I was like a retainer. So you're writing, you get stuck. You text me and you could expect that, within an hour we'll have a call set up or, something like that.
Amazing.
And it bombed. And I think probably part of it is just because I didn't market it properly, may have been part of it. But I think people just don't understand it,
Yeah.
I see how great that would be. Right?
Yeah.
So in a perfect world, I would hire you because I want to finish this fucking novel that I've been, dilly-dallying with forever. Because one, you would be really, really good about saying, okay, this is working, this doesn't working, but also being that accountability coach. You know what I mean? Which is what a lot of people need. And so
a lot of coaching is problem solving. So you're helping somebody problem solve. Really, getting them to articulate the problem is more important than solving the problem, because once people can articulate it, they can see a way around it that you won't necessarily be able to see for them because you're not living their life, But I love the subscription model idea, but I also think there's this sort of myth that mentorship should be free.
Well, it depends on the mentor, right?
Yeah, it never is free. Like in my experience, every time I've been mentored, I've paid for it either because I was in my MFA program, or I was at a conference, or even if I don't directly hand over money to the mentor, or I'm just listening to their craft talk at a conference and I'm taking a ton away from it and I'm reading their books, and so I feel mentored by them. But even though we don't have a one-on-one, I still had to pay for the stuff, which I absolutely don't have a problem with. But I think there is this sort of impression in the writing industry anyways, or the writing field, possibly in other fields too, that it's almost like what's the word, apprenticeship system, like Michelangelo had people that he helped, worked on parts of his stuff that he trained basically. And there's very few ways to monetize that. So your idea of a subscription, so they almost like a retainer system for getting your advice when they needed it, I think it didn't fly because people know that they can ask you without paying for a subscription.
Yeah, that may be it. Like the one thing I realized when I first started, and said I'm going to be a writer, and not like in 8th grade, I'm going to be a writer, but like I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to have as a career.
Yeah.
I immediately knew I needed a mentor. Immediately, like there was no moment of like, gee, what should I do first? And could not find one. And so there's notion of there's the mentor who's the person who reads your stuff and guides you and says, this is amateurish, but this is good.
Mhm.
And then there's the mentor who says, yeah, I'm going to send this to my agent.
Yeah, true.
I felt like I wanted both, but you're right. It doesn't really come for free. And so
No.
MFA program,
Yeah.
I guess another way to think about that is that's where you're going to get that mentor who's going to send something to an agent for you.
Yeah. I think in my program they even call them mentors, or maybe that's what I call them. I forget what it's faculty, I know, but I see that as a connection more than a mentoring. But they you have to have access to them, and that comes through formal mentoring systems like MFA programs, writing conferences. Well, they often will have a like a blue pencil session or stuff. You can make connections in those where then you have kind of they like you, or you like them, you hit it off, whatever. They
Mhm.
they hear you read a bit of your stuff and they're like, oh yeah, maybe this person. But I really think it's not free, and I don't know that it ever has been free. I just,
Yeah.
like the writers, let's say Charles Dickens, he had people sending him stuff all the time. Say,
Mhm.
oh, would you read my thing? Edgar Allan Poe could send Charles Dickens a short story and go, what do you think? And
Mhm.
Dickens would be like, have you met my dog? He's not going to tell him what he thinks because he doesn't feel like it. He doesn't have time. It's not his job.
Right. Yeah, you got to inspire somebody. For that kind of mentorship, you got to inspire that somebody to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where being a young, attractive woman
Mm.
is a huge feather in the cap. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's true. And the not that I would know, but the
come
other
on, come on.
fishing. Yeah, or I was at this conference, I think it was an AWP, and do you know Chuck Palahniuk? He wrote, I think it was Fight Club.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, he was giving a talk, and at the end of the talk, he took questions, and a young man stood up in the audience and said something cheeky like, "Do you want to read my stuff, or do you just want to go back to your place?" or something like that, like just a total pass, basically. And the Chuck Palahniuk's face, he was like, "Whatever." But I was thinking, maybe at the back of his mind, he's like, "Remember what row that guy's in?"
Yeah, or he's
No, later.
thinking, "Oh my God, every single one of these things, there's somebody does."
Yeah, because he's not a bad-looking guy,
Yeah, he's Fight Club worthy looking dude. So why not?
But now the Me Too stuff and the Hollywood, what's that guy's name? Harvey Weinstein.
Uh,
Writers have to be so careful
yeah,
about, like, even not, so one of my mentors, we stay in a hotel during the residency, like the winter residency, because the dorm rooms are full. And the end of the residency, I gave him a bottle of bourbon because I knew he liked bourbon. And so he's standing in the hallway, and I say, "Oh, just come in. I got it like in my room." And he he leans in with one foot, propping the door open because this guy's like 16 years younger than me. But it's all perception, right? He's just like, and that was 2012. That was before 2011, maybe. That was before Hollywood blew up. But it was just like, there's no way he's going into a student's room at all. Like under no circumstances, just because of that.
So he wasn't doing the like, I'm coming in.
No, he was holding the door open.
We need witnesses.
Yes, exactly. I will have witnesses on Dobie at all times. Oh God.
So how put off were you by it's like,
I loved it. I thought it was,
I didn't want, if you had tried to come in, I would have thought you're a lech and a miserable human being. But the fact that you're not trying to come in, why me?
What's wrong with me?
Why
No,
am I putting you up so much?
I loved it because I gave another of my mentors, much older guy, different semester, gave him a bottle of booze, and he was in my room, like looking out the window. His radar was not at all on the optics. He was just like, well, because he's a boomer. Like,
happened the other way, or at least it's never, my experience.
Doesn't it? So in fiction, sometimes it happens the other way because this married prof, super busy, will get like targeted by one of his uber attractive students who wants something, and then it's seen as manipulative. But if it's the older guy, young beautiful woman scenario, it's not seen, it's just seen as, well, he's going to go for it. Like, why wouldn't he? So it's like, it's got this whole other vibe to it. But I've never been made a pass at in any of my writing stuff, because that's not why anybody's there, really. Like, I think I guess it happens, but not in the stuff I went to, because it was all for adults. Like, I bet it happens. I know it happened up at UBC in the undergrad creative writing program. They had a big scandal. The guy got fired.
Yeah, there's definitely creepy guy who wants to sleep with a student.
Yeah.
And then there's the student who feels like, he's a good looking guy, he's famous, he's wealthy, blah, 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 and he can advance my prospects. Yeah. So you hit on him hard.
And he says, I'm a really good writer. Like, that's probably part of it too. Yeah. Because there is this, just because you're an attractive young person doesn't mean that, you don't have anything else going on. So there's this, like, what if you're a super talented writer and this is the only way you can see to get your stuff published, or at least get looked at?
Let's take a brief break to talk about some of the things that Pat and James are working on. In the city of Vancouver, even dirt costs. In The Tenants by Pat Dobie, 3 of its residents are struggling with their homes, whether that's grappling with real estate prices, simmering resentments, or an uneasy co-living arrangement with the local wildlife. Or so goes Pat's new book, The Tenants, out by Anvil Press. It's available through Anvil Press, or Indigo Books, as well as Amazon. It's a wonderful book. One of the great things about working with Pat is we laugh a lot, and we really enjoy each other. And what I've loved about reading her writing and her book is I get to see another side of her, a serious side, one that really cares about the issues important to her city of Vancouver, but are issues that are important to everybody in a lot of metropolitan areas when it comes to housing. But I also get to see a little other side of her sense of humor, which is always welcome. And it's a great book, and I can't recommend it enough. James, that's me. I've got a short story titled Hillary and Walt Sachs. It's at thenomadjournal.com. I'd love for you to head over there and check it out. So now let's get back to the conversation where Pat talks about how people might use romantic attraction to get ahead in some other pursuits. One of them on the baseball field.
So it's a very, I guess it happens in every industry. I mean, acting is just pretty much famous for it. Probably happens in the art world. I don't think it could happen in sports because they rely so heavily on stats. Oh, I bet it does, though.
In terms of it's like sleeping with somebody to get ahead.
Let's say it's sort of like the manager wants a hand job, and then you can get first on the batting order or whatever. You can tell I don't know anything about sports, but
yeah. Yeah. Coach, I'll give you a little handy if I'm batting fourth. I want to be cleanup. Yeah.
Okay. Batting order was probably not. It's not.
All the other guys are like, hey, why is Tito batting fourth? He sucks. And then another guy's like,
Okay. Are you done?
Oh, I can keep going.
I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. Oh my God. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I don't know. That's it. My head's exploding because I'm just like, okay, does it happen in every job? Like, I was in the conference industry, which is surprisingly sophisticated. And, you're at international conferences. Those people have been all over the world. They're like multilingual. They're smart. They're fast. They're rich. And I think I for sure hooked up with people at conferences, but it was more of, we're in the same age group. It was just, we were both in Budapest when we were 29. So where am I going with that? I don't know if
it wasn't the like trying to get ahead. It was just, we're the same age, we're having fun.
Yeah,
but we smoke.
smoking Marlboros in the basement of the Budapest
Yeah.
Hotel disco, four in
Yeah,
the morning, and you got a 6 o'clock call.
yeah, let's just hook it up, you know?
Yeah, so it's like being at university together or something.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's that perception that you can actually get boosted in some industries to the same degree, because the skills that will boost you, your ability to give a good hand job is not necessarily going to make you a good logistics manager.
Yeah. In terms of like writing, so like being the really attractive young may get you a read. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a better, or it'll get you through that front door or whatever it is, so that the person actually reads what you have or something
Mm.
like that.
Yeah.
But if your writing sucks, or it's not good enough, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
I don't see the scenario where somebody writes some semi crappy book, right?
Yeah.
And then sleeps their way into an agent, then bounces and sleeps their way into a publishing deal, and then sleeps their way into whatever the next thing is.
The Call from Oslo.
Yeah, The Call from Oslo. And New York Times bestseller. It's
You'd have to sleep with a lot of people to get them
there's
to
a
buy
lot
your
of
book.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to be worn down. Yeah.
You're going to be a toothless hag by the time you're
Yeah.
35. Okay.
Somebody's going to go, you know what, this book kind of sucks.
Yeah. We could have a bit on like borderline uncomfortable discussions about the publishing industry, because it's like, we're having one of those talks where it's like, okay, we're talking about, basically trading sex for advantages.
Yeah.
And we're really wondering, how valid is that now? Just thinking, because I've even got a couple like things that I'm remembering now. Like I was in one workshop where one of the students accused the faculty member, and so there's like 12 people around the workshop table, and she said he touched her leg, and he almost lost his job. Like it was a big deal. And I was in the workshop, and I knew she was high. She was taking, I didn't know what drugs she was taking, but she was high. She was super erratic in her behavior, and she was nowhere near him in any of the, I went to every workshop, and, I was keeping an eye on her because she was high. She stood most of the time. And so I just emailed them and said, that didn't actually happen. And I think a couple other people in the workshop might have also said that didn't happen. And they said, they got back to me and said, thank you for setting the record straight, because now we can deal with it differently. And it turned out she had an addiction that she was getting treatment, that she had to get treatment for. And so she withdrew the accusation, but it was more like in a bid for attention than anything else.
Yeah.
And it was sort of an icky episode. So there's perspectives from both sides. Yeah. Have you ever, how do you use your, not what you're actually good at, let's say writing, you're not using that to get your foot in the door. You kind of have to have that and be this other thing too. Or be willing to make people think you might be, hit the sack with them if they send your story. I don't know if it's that transactional. I think it's like one of those weird.
I don't know what the opposite male thing would be, but and I wonder too, have there been times where I, as a guy approaching a woman, and I want them to read something, and you try to be solicitous towards them, right? Sort of say, I really respect your this, that, and the other.
Right.
Where is that line where that person maybe is going to start interpreting what you're doing as you and, creating inferences?
Yeah.
We have to acknowledge that it's real, right? Like people respond to people for all kinds of different reasons.
Definitely.
And that tension is never going to be completely out of the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's how do you navigate all that?
Yeah. So it's part of the whole mentorship discussion, because it is a way of getting a boost. However, whether you use it to get somebody to read your stuff or, to pass your stuff along, I think it's also, I think it would probably vary quite a lot by the person. There's some people who will sort of capitalize on their sexuality in line, to go buy rice cakes or whatever. And then there's people who just would never occur to them. They'll stand at the back of the line forever because, they're not looking for an advantage in that context. I always felt like mentorship is basically quite transactional, even if you don't feel like it is. mentors got to get something out of it or they're not going to do it. And then or they're not going to do it well. They're going to do it like you're a pain in the ass, which is basically not mentorship. Mentorship implies a certain amount of care, almost love, it's got to be fair.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We'd love to hear how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email at giftedunderachievers@substack.com. Have an awesome day.